I'm Caleb Harris from You Can Make This Too. Thanks for joining me. Today I'll be showing you how I make this ratty old chair look like this much newer, cleaner chair. And if you do this, I recommend doing both chairs at the same time. I didn't, so I could give you this gorgeous shot, so I hope you really like it.
The first step is as simple as you'd think. Take the chair apart. But doing so actually proved to be a lot more difficult than I expected because the fasteners were super warped. With the seat off the base, I was able to remove the old webbing. It was secured around small wooden dowels that were nailed to the frame, so instead of trying to cut all the webbing free, I just removed and kind of broke the dowels away from the frame until the webbing was free. Then I got to the exciting task of pulling nails. But a nail extractor like the one I'm using is super handy, and you can pick them up at any box store. After I pulled all the nails that would come out, I came back with a hammer and then tapped flush all the nails that broke, which is inevitable with old tiny rusty nails like this. The seat frame sides consist of two pieces of wood held together by a floating tenon. One of those came loose, so I used some 5-minute epoxy to glue it back together. Wood glue would have worked just as well, but the 5-minute epoxy dries to a working hardness a lot faster. While the epoxy dried, I set to the other super fun task of sanding the entire base. A smaller sander would have made this a little more convenient, but sometimes you just have to work with oversized equipment. Everywhere that I couldn't reach with the sander, I just hand sanded. The epoxy was cured by the time I finished sanding the base, so then I sanded the varnish off the exposed bits of the seat frame and some of the really rough spots. Next, I refinished the exposed bit of the seat frame with a few coats of spray lacquer and then sprayed the entire base off camera. Also off camera, I cut all the webbing strips with a razor knife and seared the ends with a torch to help keep them from unraveling. I started the webbing by adding spacer strips on the top and bottom of the chair and then moved on to the horizontal pieces. I held everything in place using 2 1/4-inch staples from an electric stapler that I picked up just for this job, and I'm really glad I did because hand squeezing staples into this chair would have been a real hand workout. The only real trick here is pulling the strips taut and making sure that they stay snug against each other so there aren't any gaps later. Next is running the vertical strips that make the weave. It's pretty simple. The strips just weave over then under each horizontal strip. The hardest part is remembering to alternate how each strip begins. The first vertical strip I did went over the first horizontal strip that it met. So when I did the second vertical strip, I started by going under the first horizontal strip. That's what gives the weave its strength and appearance. Instead of screwing the frame back to the base, I decided to do some accents and peg the two together with some stainless steel pins. A dab of CA glue holds them in place. I didn't bother trying to epoxy them in place because next I'll drive some screws through the underside of the chair into the frame, and that'll keep the seat from shifting. And with that, the chairs were basically done. I know I've mostly been doing larger scale projects lately, but let me know in the comments what you think of these small, faster projects. If you liked it, please hit the like button and go ahead and share it with a friend on your favorite social media platform. And if you really enjoyed this and want to see more content from me, please consider becoming a patron over on Patreon at patreon.com/YouCanMakeThisToo, and you'll find links for everything below. Thank you.